Good evening, and welcome to the Dave the Mystic Show. This is episode number 325. Please welcome our guest tonight, Melissa Joy. Melissa Joy Jonsson, M. Joy, is an author, a speaker, an inspirational leader, and founder and instructor of M. Joy Seminars. She is best known for her ability to engage people from all over the world to embrace true, authentic power and intuition by playing in the field of the heart. She has a unique perspective on how we are able to experience living joyfully and loving completely. Melissa has been teaching popular life transformational seminars around the globe since 2008. In 2014, she launched the M. Joy Seminar Teachings, a unifying movement in consciousness dedicated to heart-centered awareness and practical personal empowerment for everyone. Melissa's teachings are a culmination of her expansive work integrating scientific principles and spiritual concepts into practical daily experiences. She provides a new language to experience self-love as integrity. In addition to the integrity effect, Melissa is the author of several best-selling books, including Little Book of Big Potentials, 24 Fields of Flow, Fulfillment, Abundance, and Joy in Everyday Life, and M. Joy Practically Speaking, Matrix Energetics, and Living Your Infinite Potential. She also authored Practical Play, The Heart-Centered Way, a complimentary play guide to Little Book of Big Potentials. Melissa co-authored with Dr. Richard Bartlett Into the Matrix, Guides, Grace, and the Field of the Heart, and The Physics of Miracles, Tapping into the Field of Consciousness Potential. Melissa Joy is passionate about inspiring every other person to realize his or her true authentic self, TAS, with practical, creative, and powerful wisdom. So, with all that, man, I'm impressed. Welcome, Melissa Joy. Thank you for being on the show again.
Thanks for having me back on the show. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, I'm delighted to have you. I think we share a common goal, and that's for people out there with the Earth moving so fast on her vibrational increase that the more people we can get to grow, the more people we can get to awaken or reach enlightenment, anything like that, the better off we all are, and the planet needs it.
Well, I would agree with you, and I think some of my agreement comes from knowing you and knowing some of your definitions around awakening and enlightenment and progression and so forth. And there's definitely a lot of different angles of awareness that are circulating. One thing that is probably consistent is that things are moving much faster, and we are being propelled in a direction where self-awareness and accountability and responsibility are becoming absolutely pivotal to not only personal survival, but survival of the collective. So, yes, being more awake, being more aware, if we purport to know what that means, is definitely part of the journey.
Can you talk some more about where the heart is in all of this, so people sort of understand the bigger picture?
Sure, and that's a really great place to start, because the heart is the heart of it all, and why all of my books include heart-centered awareness, both from a physics perspective as well as a spiritual perspective, an esoteric perspective, and a practical perspective, is that the field of the heart and the heart, it's a consciousness of completion. It is a consciousness that enables us to bypass the segregation of the mind, the compartmentalizing, the schemas and the filters that we've adorned through our life experiences, in such a way that we can really transcend and transform any pattern, situation, or experience. And so to me, the heart is the key to unlocking our own innate potential and unlocking self-love as authenticity and integrity. And the physics of heart-centered awareness, it's a physics of connection. And so in a very simplified way, I can talk about accessing the field of the heart that enables us to access the entire grid of collective consciousness, the grid of the universal hologram. And everybody can easily access the experience of being in their heart because it's innate. It's our most natural state. And so including heart-centered awareness as a access point for transformation is crucial, because without the heart, basically you're going to segregate and compartmentalize your experiences in a way that will leave you feeling fragmented and disconnected. And really, when we return to heart-centered awareness as our natural state, as individuals, then we're able to create and relate from the field of the heart in our interpersonal relationships and the way that we project and reflect at the collective level. And so when we're shifting our consciousness into the heart, that actually emits something called torsion fields out into the fabric of the ethers, and it becomes available for other people to resonate with too. It actually affects the entire grid of all of humanity. So it really makes a difference.
Well, I've seen the diagrams of the fields around the heart, and it looks like a big toroid or a big donut around you, and that becomes one of the explanations, if people need a physical one, for when we walk near someone else, when we interact with them, what all is interacting. And in the past, 50 years ago, we would have said, it's vibrational interaction or it's spiritual interaction. We can still use that terminology, but we can also talk about a physical interaction, and in some way, in a way that physics would support, we're also interacting with other people directly, and it still remains to be seen what all we're downloading when we do this.
Well, and I absolutely agree, and even what you're referencing with respect to the grids or the toroidal diagrams that are mapping the electromagnetic field of the heart, that's only one half of the equation. There's a whole other half of the equation, essentially the yin component to the yang of electromagnetism, which would be torsion fields. And what the field of the heart innately connects us into are these non-local antennae that are in a constant conversation with absolutely everything simultaneously. And so while we can measure the electromagnetic field of the heart with our current diagnostic tools, we're not yet able to measure the torsional fields of the heart and the torsional fields that are in we'll call it a constant conversation with the universe. We can measure the effects of them scientifically through the electromagnetic spectrum. And so, in essence, some of the science that I talk about, not so much in the integrity effect, but my prior books, which have a lot of scientific synthesis, that is the science, we could call it the science of the future, because I think at some point it's going to be mainstream science once our scientific measuring devices catch up to this instantaneous communication technology that is woven through the fabric of everything. But this is the technology of us. This is what we're made of. This is why we can gain intuitive hits, why we can know something without knowing how we know. It's because we're getting a feed from these spiraling torsion fields that are then conversing with the electromagnetic field, which we're able to measure.
Yeah, it's one of those things where for listeners who've had any type of psychic or intuitive development classes, and you're taught to still yourself, and you're looking for this information to come through, and you may have some models given to you that is coming through your heart chakra, and that's sort of the input place, or it's coming from your gut and then gets reinterpreted in some way so that you can consciously get this information. What we're talking about is moving down the road to where there is a mechanism or an implementation of how this may happen for this information to come through and how we tap into it. And it's just going to continue to, I think, expand and open our eyes as people make little incremental or pivotal discoveries here and there.
Well, absolutely. And one of the reasons that I love the physics of torsion fields and the physics of hologramming and the physics that I've written about and then unpacked in a non-scientific way through the integrity effect is that there's no limited path. There's no, you need to open your heart chakra in order to expand, or you need to open your crown chakra, or you have to go in through the solar plexus, because the physics of hologramming is the all and the small and the small and the all, which means that you can enter through the field of the heart through your toe, because every part of the system contains every other part of the system. And that means wherever you start. And as a consciousness of completion, every single experience, every single access point is going to contain the totality of every other access point. And so there's tremendous freedom in that. And that, we started off the interview pretty high-level intellectual discussion. But what I will say is that understanding is not necessary in order to experience. That truly experience will lead to understanding. I mean, some of the greatest progressions that I've made in my journey in life has been through my experiences. And my experiences, every single one of all of our experiences lead to series of distinctions that we make that support us in our own progression of our own infinite potential in whatever way that shows up. And so you don't have to understand something in order to experience it. The experience will lead you to understanding. And that's unpacked as well in the integrity effect. In fact, one of the reasons I wrote the book is that my prior 3 books had a lot of the science of consciousness, and I have a very adept way of distilling high-level science into a way that people can understand it. And I was asked by my guidance, which is still me, to write a book. To do so without the science, even though I snuck some science in later, so that I could take the language that I've given to students around the world that's enabled them to articulate something that's really innate to everyone, but they couldn't find words for, and to put it in a format that could be experienced by anyone, particularly for people who don't have an interest in the science, because you don't need an affinity for the science or an understanding of the science in order to embody the physics of integrity and heart-centered awareness and extraordinary living.